Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're all having a lovely day. I still haven't gotten around to replacing my other microphone. I apologize, you're going to be dealing with this one for the time being until I fix that or replace it. I'm just being cheap right now. Today is one of those beautiful days in New York City. You typically get 2 weeks of spring and 2 weeks of fall in New York where you're not boiling hot or freezing cold. And this is one of those 2 weeks of autumn where you can just go out for a jog and it's not too hot, it's not too cold, the sun is shining, but you're not sweating. It's absolutely beautiful, and I hope that if you have this type of weather where you are, that you spend a little bit of time outside and enjoy it. So today what I'd like to discuss is right to repair starting to go just a little bit more mainstream. And you're starting to hear some more mainstream outlets that typically used to speak from the perspective of the manufacturer, used to sympathize with the perspective of the manufacturer, starting to sympathize with the perspective that we talk about on this channel, the right to repair perspective, the right to own perspective, the freedom perspective, and I'm starting to hear them use vocabulary that makes it clear that right to repair is breaking through into the mainstream. So a lot of you have been sending me links to an AppleInsider editorial piece that came out 2 days ago, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I just like to read some of them and some of the comments. This is from AppleInsider, a website that I would never expect to really dig in and try to understand our perspective versus the perspective of a company like Apple. And it says, Apple making display repairs harder on the iPhone 13 Pro is a step too far. Now, they did dig into the fact in this article that even if you change the screen on your iPhone 13 out with another screen from an iPhone 13 that you just bought brand new at the Apple Store, it doesn't work. They said further work has proven that chopping and swapping a good iPhone 13 screen into another iPhone won't work either. They say this as if it is surprising to them. And I think at that point it should be, because it really does take away that idea that the reason it's not working is because we're trying to protect you from not getting an OEM screen, because even if you get an OEM screen, you have the same issue. We've said before that third parties should have access to non-security related parts, like screens, case parts, and batteries. Disabling Face ID when a third-party screen swap is performed, which has zero impact on user security, is arbitrary and a step too far. The fact that they're acknowledging that this has zero impact on user security means they are more open to doing independent research rather than simply listening to what the PR department at Apple has to say about any of these issues. And when they call it arbitrary and a step too far, that tells me that they're willing and open to listen to the criticisms of this that other people make. On the IRP program, which would allow you to get access to genuine parts, it says, the problem, according to technicians and repair shop owners, is that Apple's terms and requirements for the program border on totalitarian. Now, when you check the comments in the article they link to, when they say it's bordering on totalitarian, those are a bit on the wild side, I'd say. But the fact that someone at a site called AppleInsider, where I typically read articles from the manufacturer's perspective, is calling that repair program totalitarian means that they've likely dug into the reality of that program. They've actually asked people what they think of it, and they've actually read the terms of it to come to a similar conclusion that I did in this video I did a few years ago. Apple's independent program is a useless PR stunt. I was actually very happy when this program initially came out because I thought it was an olive branch, and it wasn't until I really did my research and read about the program that I realized that this is completely useless. So, for instance, you could see in the comment section here, they said $1,000 per instance of the service provider violating the policy and specifically being caught by Apple during an audit sounds reasonable. Don't like those terms? Then don't sign up to get genuine Apple parts and use knockoff ones. Problem solved. And again, and many of the comments in this comment section are the same. They all sound like protections to the consumer from businesses that deceive customers. Many of the comments in this article thought that it's totally fine that Apple can fine me up to $1,000 for using prohibited parts like a CD3217 or an ISL 9240, the same chips that go into your MacBook to fix it if it doesn't charge. If I join the IRP program, they could inspect my store according to the contract. They could find every single one of these parts that I use to fix your MacBook, the exact same parts that go into your MacBook from the exact same manufacturers. And simply because I'm not supposed to have access to them, because of the dystopian world that we live in, they could fine me $1,000 per instance of me having access to the exact same parts that go into your MacBook when this very program does not allow me to buy them through Apple. Yes, totalitarian. Good job, Apple Insider. And I would really suggest that the people in these comment sections of these articles do just a little bit of research to figure out what is considered a prohibited part and to understand why it is that a repair shop that makes their money doing repair, that makes their customers happy doing repair, is going to need to have access to these chipsets to actually do repair. And if you create a program that fines them for doing their job, they're not going to do their job. If you create a fire department where you get fined if you use water or hoses, you may find that not many firemen are signing up to use your program that are good at their job. Continuing to read this article, it says Apple pairing its display components and software to stop third-party display repairs feels arbitrary. Unless the company has a compelling reason, it feels like a step to further restrict repair access. For a component that's as frequently broken as a screen, this becomes an even worse problem. Warning users away from going to third-party repair services is one thing, but actively punishing users for doing so is another. And you really can tell from this that they wouldn't be against Apple saying, we don't think you should use third-party repair, they're low quality, they're not like us, they're peasants, they suck, only go to an AASP, but that when they actually punish users, that's where even, again, the websites that tend to write from a more Apple-centric perspective start to go, this seems like a little too much for us. And it's really our job to seize the moment at this point in time and ally with publications and ally with people that are on the other side, that do see the other side's perspective often more than ours, but that are finally starting to understand that something there is a little fishy. And we shouldn't be making fun of them, for coming to this realization at the moment that they come to that realization, because then they'll just go back to where they were before. We should really kind of extend an olive branch and say, listen, we understand that you like these products. We understand that you believe the company up to this point. But yeah, listen, everybody has a right to change their mind at some point when new information comes out, and I'm glad you did so. There are plenty of reasons to avoid third-party or do-it-yourself screen repairs, and plenty of reasons to take those options. But for such a commonly broken component, consumers should be able to make their own decision about it. At the very least, Apple shouldn't arbitrarily punish users for making a non-security-related repair decision about a device that they own. And when you hear them saying a device that they own, that's, again, something that we go into here a lot when we discuss right to repair. Do you own it, or does someone else own it? When they say, this is really surprising that they're doing this is surprising that they're making this decision for you when you own it, they're finally starting to dig into that idea that if the company is making all of these decisions for you after you purchase the product, that maybe you don't actually own it anymore, and maybe this issue just goes a little bit deeper than even discussing repair, but maybe it goes further into who owns what I purchased. Do I own what I purchase? Should I own what I purchase? And bravo for the person on the editorial board of Apple Insider, and bravo to Mike Peterson for writing this editorial at Apple Insider, for getting all of these ideas and thoughts out there. Now, you'll see some comments in the article say, good, if I get a part as critical as the screen with Face ID replaced, I want to be damn sure it's a vetted replacement that will be certified as legit and not get replaced with some cheap knockoff Chinese junk that may do illicit things later. These articles are so stupid, except that already exists. The device will tell you if your screen is a different one. You don't need to disable Face ID, which is separate altogether, to do that. But he doesn't care. So you're blaming Apple because the component swap doesn't work how unauthorized repairers assumed it would? If I replace a component in my car and lack the tools or expertise to do the job properly, I don't blame the manufacturer. Well, with your car, you often have the ability to purchase the tools that you need. Here, you don't. And you also have the ability to purchase the parts that you need without opening yourself up to inspections and $1,000 fines. Here, you don't. Did it ever occur to these idiots that contrary to troll propaganda, Apple doesn't just use generic parts with unmodified firmware? These fake repairers should be taken to court for fraud. Oh, it's funny. And you'll have other takes on this from other areas where people will say, I'm fine with this, if only because I want my iPhone, if stolen, to have limited value on the black market. Yes, I'm definitely fine with my freedom being limited, my option to choose who I bring my device to being limited, my ability to say I own my device being limited, just for the 1% chance that it's going to lower the likelihood that the type of crackhead that's going to try to steal my phone at 2 in the morning or break my car windows to steal my stuff is not going to do that because he's going to get less for it at at a pawn shop. That's definitely a reason to limit the freedom of hundreds of millions of people around the world and redefine property rights as we know it, because that may just slightly decrease the chance that someone is going to steal my phone, because I know that all the crackheads that like to steal stuff from people and rob people at gunpoint late at night are totally the type of people that research the electronics that they're going to steal off of that person to figure out how sellable they are prior to making their decision to live a life of crime. Again, so it's going to take a while before we get to the point where comments on these sites and comments in these threads start to address reality. That's going to take some time. But we are at the point where the editorials are starting to ask what I think are really good questions. They're using words like totalitarian to describe the manufacturer repair programs, which I would find to be accurate. They're invoking the idea of ownership when discussing the decisions that the manufacturer is making. I can see the breadcrumbs, and I can see how they're slowly being led down the trail on the path to freedom. And I welcome anybody who wishes to start down that trail, to start down that path. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.